just sort of a reminiscence. I have to clear my iPod off, delete all the data, delete all my music because I sold it in one day on eBay. So it's finally time to let my old iPod go. So I've had this for a very long time, and this was such a great little thing back in the day. So I put it up on eBay and it sold in a day. And I think it's largely because it was in such good condition. So I always kept it in this silicone case. So that kept the unit itself from being scratched up. Good little lesson there. You take care of your stuff, and then it's going to be worth something later on. So this was the sixth generation of the Apple iPod, and a really great tech back in the day. I think it came out in 2009, if I'm correct. And one of the things that's really cool about it is this cover flow feature. So if you've never played around with the sixth edition, or it was in the seventh generation as well, which was the last generation of the iPod, you have this cover flow thing. And so if your MP3 files had the artwork included in them, so sometimes you can have it where the artwork is connected inside of the MP3 file, then as you go through and scroll through the music, then what happens is that the cover shows up, and so you can kind of visually slide through and see the album artwork. So, not all of you are old enough to remember the albums, but I know albums are getting to be real big. But back in the day, I had been collecting albums. I think I still do have more than 1,000 left. Sold a bunch of them, but I still have 1,000 albums left. And that was the thing where we would sit, put the headphones on, look at the artwork while we're listening to the music. I mean, it's like I'm nearly memorized every little nuance inside of a lot of these albums. I can remember as a kid, laying down and laying in front of my stereo with my headphones on, listening to Dark Side of the Moon and some of the great, little nuances in the music, and listening to Alan Parsons' way he mixed the Pink Floyd music. Oh, it was just so amazing. And so the idea of having your music in your hand and being able to carry it with you was so novel back then. And so the original iPod was obviously a huge hit. And this was really between this and the seventh generation, was really the pinnacle of that technology. So obviously things have changed now, but there's still something to be said of how cool this technology is. So inside of this is a mechanical hard drive. So it's actually a spinning disk that's inside of this. When it starts up, you can feel it vibrate a little bit as the tiny little disk spins up. Holds 160 gigabyte. Now, once again, doesn't sound like a whole lot, when we're talking about terabytes and terabytes nowadays. But back then, to hold 160 gigabytes, that's a ton of music, right? So for back then, 160 gigabytes could, for most people, hold your entire music collection. So you'd have every piece of music that you owned at your fingertips in this little thing. And so this is it's a really cool piece of technology, looking back historically. So it had a stainless steel back, has an aluminum front, really tight build. Now I've opened these. I haven't opened this one, but I've opened these, and they are very, very difficult to get open because of how well they're built. I had a bunch of the fifth generation. So I have a fifth generation, and these, I opened up all of these. I had a whole bunch of them that I'd picked up, and I bought in a kind of a bulk sale, and they were not working. And so these I opened up, and I replaced the spinning hard drive with an SSD. I was able to find, this was a number of years ago, but I was able to find an SSD that would fit in here that was about the same size. The fifth generation was 30 gigabyte. And so this one doesn't have the cover flow, but it was still like a really nice, cool piece of technology. But opening this thing up was not easy because of how well they built it and how tight it was. And so uses the old style. So if any of you are old enough to remember this, the old style 30-pin connector. So this is what the old original iPhones, iPads, iPods had, this 30-pin connector. And so that's how you got the data in, through your iTunes program on your computer. So you'd run iTunes on your computer. you'd plug this in, it would sync with that, and you would then upload your data through that program into your iPod. And it's really cool because it takes a second to come on. It's like you tap it, and then you, you tap it, and it takes a minute because it's a mechanical hard drive. So it takes us a moment to spin up to get the data off of it. Because once again, back in the day, this is all old antique technology. And so, I mean, things have changed so much. For me, I'm a little bit older, so it doesn't seem like that long ago. But, now for a lot of the young people, they're not familiar with this. So if you've never actually held an iPod and you haven't really played around with the click wheel, so because when you play a song or play an album, because once again, you're looking through the albums here, and that's how I normally would sort through it, is by the album, because I always think of it that way, having grown up in the vinyl era. So I have an album that I want, I put the whole album on and sit down and listen to an album, right? It was a listening experience, right? And so you play the music, and you have this cover flow thing that's playing while you're playing the music. And to adjust the volume, you slide your finger around the click wheel. And so it's really kind of cool because it actually clicks, and you can feel it and hear it click as you're sliding your finger around. And that was such a novel thing that all of them had it. Even the first generations had that. Even my older fifth generation has that click wheel. And it was such a cool thing. So it's a four-way thing. You got menu, fast forward, reverse, play, pause, but you like control the volume or things like that with that click wheel. And it was just so novel and so cool. I mean, the engineers that came up with that, very, very cool. So if you ever had one of these or held one of these, I just wanted you guys to kind of see this. And I'm sure there's a ton of other videos that are a lot more technical and detailed. This is just sort of a reminiscence. I have to clear my iPod off, delete all the data, delete all my music, because I sold it in one day on eBay. And so I thought before I got rid of it, I'd share my thoughts on my good old iPod before it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed that.